Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about mentoring boys. Yes, that is the thinker, and that is exactly what we will be thinking about today with Hugh. Thank you so much, Hugh, for coming on to my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me. I am excited. Let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, mentoring boys, what does that make you think about?
So I think where I've been coming with this Mitzi is the mentoring of boys without fathers. So uh, it's quite specific. There are a lot of boys out there and girls, but the focus is on boys who don't
Mhm.
have a father, where the father has left the home on a relatively permanent basis from early in life. And in my case, my father died when I was one, and my mother was still pregnant with my brother. So he's a boy without a father as well. So there's the two of us being brought up by our mother, who uh, I'll go on record as saying is that she's still alive. So I've got to keep saying she's 94, but is a very good mother. Um, and gave us tremendous opportunities in life. But, even she said a mother can't make up for the lack of a father. And so there's always something missing. And I think that as I've come to learn more about myself, my life journey, where I've got to, I've wanted to help on a bigger basis,
Yeah,
uh, provide some support for kids, particularly boys, who haven't had a father. Uh, so that's how I've got to this place. Um,
yeah,
and I think that it's a societal, Mitzi, it's a society issue that needs to be understood better. That
it
that
is.
a boy without a father, and I think the issues are going to be stronger the earlier the father leaves the home. So for me, it's 1 year old. Um, through passing away is potentially you can be more aggressive in your temperament,
Yeah.
which can build up and lead into problems when you get to 10 and 12. You start associating with the wrong people, you start doing the wrong things, and the and
Hmm.
the and the it could lead going to jail. I think there's also that didn't happen to me, but there's also issues like literacy, so finding it more difficult to learn. So
Yes.
I was that one. Um, one sort of social connectivity and being socially backward.
Yeah.
And in fact, my when I was about three, my mother had taken me to kindergarten, and so my father had died, say 18 months before or something like that. And the kindergarten teacher asked her after a couple of sessions, has Hugh suffered a trauma?
Hmm.
And she said, well, his father died.
Hmm.
And I think this is this is what a lot of people aren't realizing, is that the loss of a parent
Yeah,
is a trauma.
it is.
And so, being a boy without a father is a trauma, whether it's for me or whether it's for the many others that are out there in society. And how do we help people go past that trauma and be not a victim, be the victor?
Exactly. And I love that interpretation. And I'm glad that you made that very specific about mentoring boys without a father because it is very specific. It is something that people don't really talk about or they don't like to discuss openly. We know this is very common to just know that it happens where men end up dying, and leaving children behind. They go off to war. They're not around the family and they still are not around and the mother has to take care of the child or they just end up leaving for them. I mean, some some people just
Well,
decide they
they
don't
just
want to.
abandon the
Yeah.
household.
Yeah, and they had
Yeah.
just abandoned the household. I mean, every scenario is quietly different, but the same thing, and is the end result is the sons are left without a father. And I agree, it does take a toll on someone's mind, body, soul, spirit, energy, everything, where you don't even realize it's affecting the child, because you were 1 years old. Goodness gracious, 1 years old. I mean, and your brother, he was still in the womb. He had no idea. You know what I mean? And that,
No.
and the fact that your body naturally took a toll from that missing piece of your DNA, it knew automatically without it consciously knowing. You know what I mean? So that right there is so surprising and so amazing that you were able to recognize it. The teacher was able to recognize it. Your mother was able to, what I mean, understand what was really going on because of that missing piece of the equation. And I don't think a lot of mothers or parents in general understand how important it is to have a two-home household, or to even have both parents that are actively engaged in a son's life. Because like you said earlier, a mother can only take their son so far, but without that other piece, you truly miss context that helps develop your character as a growing baby, toddler, you know what I mean, individual. So for you, how did you learn to evolve in a way that helped you be a better man?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that when I was 9, my mother sent me to boarding school because she realized that this was an issue, and so she sent me when I was 9. My brother went the next year when he was 9, and even though that was a sacrifice for her in not having us at home every day and really only could see us on 2/3 of the weekends that we were there in a school term.
Yeah.
Uh, and obviously there's the school holidays, you're at home, but it limited her contact with us. But she felt we needed to be in a more male orientated environment to get some of that character development, boundaries, learn to be there a little bit in the tougher world, and the type of we probably would have gone to that school anyway if my father had been alive because he went there. But she made the conscious attempt, and she had been to boarding school herself in England. But it made the uh, but I think that it would have been an easy choice for her, being a widow, to say I want my kids at home, right? Um, as opposed to sending them to boarding school. Now, even at 9 years old, you don't completely know whether your kids are going to be able to handle it or not. But as I've said to her, I think you made the right decision, even though maybe I didn't love all of it. Would have would what would you can reflect on what would happen if I'd been at a day school, right? But
Yeah.
the fact is, I didn't, and I'm doing okay today. I think that for me, I was more the shy, introverted type. It took longer to develop, and when my
Hmm.
stepfather came along when I was 16 and 2 years before I finished school, he started to provide a bit more of that manly influence, a bit more guidance. And he and the day I left the boarding school at 17, so I was a year young for the year. I could have repeated a year. Uh, he I loved body surfing, so he dropped me off at the Surf Lifesaving Club, and I learned to become a surf lifesaver. And I hung out on the beach all summer,
That's awesome.
because there's nothing to do for about 4 months till you start college. I did that, and then I'm amongst, almost amongst men. There are guys there that are 25, whatever. So I think you're learning from that. So it was an evolutionary process for me, but always slow. Then you go to work and you start fairly male dominated environment in the accountancy world that I started in. Still, you start to I just started to learn, and I think I always had a natural instinct inside me that guided me, but probably come the circle to my early 30s, I went on more of a self-awareness journey and started to discuss, wanted to learn more about who I was, what was my role on earth,
Yeah.
and I got asked questions about my life purpose. Things started to come out from that, from this, as you said, the subconscious.
Hmm.
And so I've taken myself on as I've been sort of going on my business career and life career, I've taken myself on a fairly hardcore learning journey. And, you know, I've always come back to how can I help other kids
Yeah.
become aware of themselves, get guidance on what career they should have, how they should, if you want to call it act, behave, how they stand up,
Yeah.
find their identity. Because I didn't have the direct help on that. My stepfather provided some help, but it probably some of that would have been needed earlier. I think
Yeah.
would have been better. And even your stepfather's not your father, but nevertheless, he was helpful. So that's how some of that came for me. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you are able to see how maybe not in the moment when you were sent off to boarding school that it was going to have all of these positive effects in your life later on in life.
I would have had, I had no idea. I
It,
just, as far as I knew, I was going there because my father went there, and it was time to be pushed out of the house. Essentially, not even, even though I don't think I even thought of it like that. I just thought, okay, this is the next step in schooling. And it
yeah.
was as simple as that. It wasn't a discussion whether I was going. I was booked in, right?
Right, exactly. You were just like, boop, here's what it is, and that's what you're gonna do, So you didn't even realize what was what until you were in it, and then you were able to reflect back and have that moment of like, consideration, appreciation, and even gratitude because it brought you something. It brought you a different type of understanding, a different type of perspective. Now you got to see other boys your age and how they act and how it's like observational learning. That's a common thing in psychology. What is the first thing that what humans do? We observe through learning. So as you were
Yeah,
in that position, that's what you were instinctively doing. You were learning, you were observing, you were trying to see what is what and how to perform in a way that is correct for who you are as a boy. And I think that's one thing that all human beings are trying to do is just trying to understand who they are as a boy. So even if a female doesn't have the mother, they have that instinctual, what do I do as a woman? And as a man, as a boy, you're going to have that instinctual perception of what do I do as a man? And the fact that you got your stepfather later on in life, I mean, it's true what you said. Like he would have probably been more useful if he was there earlier, not so later on in your life because the effects of it would have been differently, but at least what when he was there and when he did make an impact, it just shows that you were still able to get something from that. And it still holds value, especially for the men who are stepfathers and don't know their place and don't know exactly how to maneuver through their stepson. You know what I mean? At least that gives them an understanding that at least you do the right thing and try for the best for that boy, that one day they'll be able to see value in your presence and know that you did the best that you could in what you were and what you are. So I think that that really brings so much value in this conversation. So I guess I have to ask you, what are other ways that can truly help mentor boys without fathers?
I think the first thing, obviously, is having some level of male influence, and certainly the person being genuine in who they are and the way, and authentic in the way they operate, to help with boundary setting, role modeling. I think that's the thing, is seeing how others do life the right way, and know that that is authentic. Now, no one's perfect, but seeing it, life being led, life being done well, I think is something that's important. I think, the next part of what I do is, helping kids understand their talents, what their real strengths are, and how can they go and use those in the world? How do they build an identity for
Yeah.
themselves? And in a way, build the grit and resilience to want to break out of perhaps the socio-economic zone they're in
Yeah.
to go out there and do something great. And in a way, you've got to with some of this, you've got to look the tiger in the eye a bit and say, okay, I was dealt this hand. It wasn't in my control because in
Mm-hmm.
most cases it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but how's it an opportunity for me?
Yeah.
Of course, if you're 1 year old or you're 3 years old or 5 years old, you'd rather have your dad in the home. I think for most people, and if the person's, are drunk and physically abusive, then there are reasons not to have a father in the home. But even then, it's still a loss in some ways. But let's assume that you don't have those problems. I think it's looking it is at a certain point in your life learning learning to have the courage to look it in the eye and think, okay, what's the opportunity? Uh, um, be appreciative of it,
Yeah.
and then go out there and do something with it, and maybe in a way honor honor your father and I think your mother
Yeah.
by making the most of your talents. I don't think there's any more one can ask, and that's not saying you have to go out there and be a billionaire.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just going out there and doing something meaningful and purposeful, and not overly allowing it to hold you back. I think that it can hold you back, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure it held me back. It's taken me time in a way to find my spot and flourish.
Mm-hmm.
But is to, and we all have our. I think we all can have our day when things are gonna go well for you. But
Yeah.
this can't be made to be the excuse, right?
Yeah.
It should
Exactly.
be. It should, in a way, be seen as a catalyst, even
Yeah.
though it's not something you'd wish for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Like it just because it's a card that you were dealt and you have no control of it doesn't mean that you use that card to keep you as a victim, to keep you from moving forward, to stepping into the status quo of, oh, this will be your now new demise because this is the hand that you were dealt. And since now your hand is dealt this way, you don't have a father, well, now we expect you to fall into drugs, deal drugs, go into jail, abuse women, misuse you know what I mean? The list can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, it's about stepping up and not allowing that to identify you in the negative spectrum, but allow that to build you up and use that as a stepping stone to be more than what you could possibly know, because you don't have a canvas to look back on or to remember or hold on to as like your footprint. You are basically making your own canvas of what a man should be and how they should act and what they should be and move around and do all that extra, etc. But you can look at it and be proud knowing that you were able to create yourself by everything that you've seen and you thought that was good, because you get this discernment of what's good and what's bad. And if you put in those categories what is valuable and what's good and what's going to build you and contribute to the world, like you were saying, and just be a good human being, a good man, then you know what I mean, that's on the good end of the spectrum, and you can create that beautiful canvas of what it is. And then when you have children or when you're around other young men, you can show them what you've built. And you know what I mean? Like lead that as an example, kind of what you're
Yep.
doing, you know what I mean? So that they can be like, you know what, Hugh, he did not have a father, but he's still a good man. He still carries himself very well. He leads with proper, like, dignity, you know what I mean? And that's something to be proud about, and it sucks that time is catching up to us because there's so many different avenues that we can really keep going down on this, because I was just, when you were talking, I was like, oh, like we could talk about this and this and this, trust me, we can go down this avenue for a long time, but what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Well, I think that I'd say never be the victim, be the victor. I think that's the key message out of this. And I think for every kid out there, and let's and today we're focusing on the boys, but I don't think the girls should be ignored either. And it's not my intention to ignore girls, but I don't have that same experience. I think the impact's different for a girl without a father or without a mother than it is for a boy. But I think yeah, what I want to do is help then everybody have a dream big, and then you can start small and finish big, and get in touch with your identity, and
Yeah.
learn as much as you can about yourself to flourish.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think it hurts to go and ask some other wise people what they've done in a particular situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as a boy without a father, you generally are not going to have got that person in the home to ask. There hasn't been someone there setting boundaries. So I think that's one of the issues.
Yeah,
And you haven't seen any
exactly.
role modeling going on, good or bad, right? Um,
Exactly.
so that
Yeah,
that'd be that'd be a lot of the message, I think.
yeah, I think that holds true value because if you, like from the beginning, you said, don't use that as a victim, be a victor. That's great. And then to ask those questions and seek that wisdom, seek that understanding, seek those boundaries because even in a young person, child, and a baby, they have this instinctual understanding of boundaries in one way or another. Like, oh, they learn, oh, it's too hot, don't touch it. Oh, I'm gonna trip. Don't go over there. Oh, that's gonna burn me. You know what I mean? Little things you pick up on right away. So when you grow up, why not just continue that spirit? Why not just ask people that you already have observed and seen that they have good characteristics and find out those questions, seek that wisdom because if you seek it, then you'll find it. And it only truly shows that you want to be a better person. And everybody in one way or another has that desire knowing that there's something that's missing out of them and because there's a lot of people that don't have two parents anymore, you know what I mean? There's a lot of
No,
things that are going on.
this issue's big. There'd be probably half the kids out there, in America,
Yeah.
statistically, and there's a lot of research that's been done on the whole area of boys without fathers, and there's a big number, and it's a big contributor to um, a lot of the society issues we have. I'm very much about empowerment, economic empowerment, and I think that this is falls in that bucket. And
Okay.
and and but a big part of getting yourself to the next level, or what I would call laddering up,
Mhm.
uh, is learning about who you are. And to be honest, you've got to face your biggest challenge, um,
Yeah.
and or roadblock, and that is going to be psychological, and that is going to come back to uh, your early part of your life. And probably that's true even for two parent uh, households as well. We've all
Yeah.
got something,
Yeah.
and you've got to go and take it on. And
Yeah.
once you can get past that and put it in its right place, then you can move forward. And in a way, that's resolving the trauma. And it's just the fact is the trauma is pretty big when you don't have a dad. When you don't have a dad,
Yeah. Absolutely. And the
that
trauma
doesn't
is
mean that it's, as I said, it doesn't mean it's an excuse, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's there and it needs to be dealt with.
Exactly. So yeah, and that's why this conversation holds so much value because we are bringing awareness, we're bringing this conversation out into the world so that people can really consider, their effects, their position, their power, their understanding and how their parents or their how they grew up, how they affected them, you know what I mean? Because everyone, like you said earlier, has a little bit of trauma. Trauma is not exempt for nobody, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how high, how tall, doesn't matter. Trauma's coming for you one way or another. So it really is something that we have to continue to move forward, because as we move forward, we don't allow that trauma to keep us holding back. You know what I mean? We learn how to walk with it, we learn how to
Yeah.
build with it, we learn how to move with it. So we really have to become victorious when it comes to acknowledging our trauma, because that's how you heal it. Because if you acknowledge it but don't do anything about it, or you don't move forward with it, then then you're just using that as a crutch, as an excuse. You know what I mean? And we have this opportunity to know better, so do better, and that's the great position that we are in. We are able to shift our perspective, because time cannot heal all wounds if you don't allow time to shift your perspective. And if you don't allow time to shift your perspective, it will not heal all wounds. So shift your perspective with time, allow your wounds to heal, acknowledge what's going on within yourself so that you can continue to move forward. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, because I truly did, please go check out Hugh. I have access to his website, access to all the greatness that he has to offer the world, so that you can continue on thinking. If you're listening in audio, if you're watching on YouTube, you can find access to his link. Goes boop. Right there, goes directly to it, so that you don't have to Google search. You don't have to look around. Don't worry, I got you, boo. We're going to make this easy so that you can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.